Stop fighting your life. Welcome to this sacred space of stillness and deep reflection. As you begin this journey, I invite you to settle into a posture that embodies both dignity and ease. Close your eyes softly and feel the weight of your body, being supported by the earth beneath you. In this opening moment, we are not trying to change anything or fix any part of our lives. We are simply arriving here, exactly as we are, without judgment or expectation. Most of our lives are spent in a state of subtle or overt argument with reality. We wake up and immediately begin negotiating with the day ahead of us. We carry an invisible contract in our hearts that dictates how the world should behave. This contract says that our plans must succeed, and that our loved ones must never leave us. It says that the weather should be pleasant, and that our bodies should remain eternally young. But life never signed this contract. We wrote it ourselves in the quiet chambers of our desires. When the world deviates from our script, we feel a sense of betrayal and profound frustration. We treat a rainy day, or a broken appliance as a personal affront to our well-being. We treat a difficult conversation as a sign that something is fundamentally wrong with our existence. But what if the problem is not the event itself, but the story we tell about the event? What if the gap between what is happening and what we want to happen is the source of all pain? As you sit here, notice the breath as it enters and leaves the body without any effort from you. The breath does not ask for permission to change, it simply flows according to its own nature. It comes in cool and leaves warm, an eternal cycle of receiving and letting go. If your mind wanders to the past or the future, gently acknowledge it as a visitor. Do not fight the thoughts, for fighting is just another form of resisting reality. Instead, observe the thought as if it were a leaf floating down a stream in autumn. Now, let your awareness travel slowly through your body, beginning at the soles of your feet. Notice any sensation there: warmth, coolness, tingling, or simply the quiet presence of the ground beneath you. Allow your attention to rise gently through your ankles, your calves, your knees. Move upward into your thighs and hips, noticing without judgment whatever is present. Let your awareness rest for a moment in your belly. Does it feel tight, or open, or somewhere in between? Continue upward into your chest, your shoulders, your arms, and your hands. Finally, bring your attention to your neck, your jaw, your eyes, and the crown of your head. You do not need to fix or change anything you discover along the way. Simply witnessing is enough. This body has carried you faithfully through every day of your life. And right now, it deserves your full and gentle attention. Notice the body feels in this very second. Is there tension in the shoulders or the jaw? Breathe into that tension and see if you can allow it to exist without needing to resolve it. Acceptance starts with the smallest things: the sound of a ticking clock or the feeling of air on skin. And now, turn your awareness inward to the landscape of your emotions. Perhaps there is something stirring in your chest right now. A heaviness that has no clear name, a quiet anxiety, a flicker of sadness, or even a restless energy that you cannot quite explain. Whatever it is, you do not need to understand it or resolve it in this moment. Simply acknowledge its presence the way you would acknowledge a guest who has arrived at your door. You might say inwardly, "I see you. You are welcome here." Emotions, like weather, do not ask for our permission to arise. They move through us like clouds across the sky. Our practice is not to clear the sky, but to become the sky itself, vast enough to hold everything without being overwhelmed. We are learning to stop the war we have been waging against the present moment. We are learning to drop the heavy luggage of how things should be and why they aren't. This is the practice of arriving in the now, the only place where life actually occurs. The future is a projection of hope and fear, and the past is a graveyard of memories. Only this breath, this heartbeat, and this awareness are truly real and tangible. As we move deeper into this meditation, let go of the need to be a good meditator. There is no goal to reach and no mountain to climb. There is only the vastness of your own presence. Allow the silence to wrap around you like a soft blanket on a cold winter night. Recognize that you are safe in this stillness, far away from the noise of the external world. And in this safety, allow yourself to turn toward the person who has perhaps been most neglected on this journey yourself. You have been carrying so much. The weight of expectations, the grief of things lost, the weariness of trying to hold everything together. You have been doing your best, every single day. Even on the days when your best felt terribly small. Take a moment now to offer yourself the same compassion you would so willingly give to someone you love. Place a hand gently over your heart, if that feels right, and silently acknowledge, I have tried, I have struggled, and I am still here. This is not weakness, this is the quiet courage of being human. You do not need to earn your own tenderness. It is already yours. Every time you return your attention to the breath, you are tearing up a page of that invisible contract. You are saying to life, I am ready to meet you on your terms, not mine. This is the first step toward a freedom that does not depend on external circumstances. It is the freedom of a heart that has decided to stop running away from itself. Now, gently expand your awareness beyond the boundaries of your own skin. In this very moment, across every time zone on this earth, countless other human beings are also breathing. They are sitting in their own stillness, or perhaps lost in their own storms, but they are breathing, just as you are. Some are grieving, some are healing, some are discovering, for the first time, that it is safe to be still. You are not alone in this practice. You are part of an immense and invisible community of those who are learning, breath by breath, to come home to themselves. Let this awareness soften any sense of isolation you may carry. Your suffering is not a sign that you are broken or uniquely cursed. It is a sign that you are alive, and that you are human, and that you are connected to every other soul. Who has ever sat in the quiet and asked, is it possible to be at peace with all of this? Take a deep, nourishing breath and feel the oxygen, revitalizing every cell in your body. Exhale slowly, releasing the need to control the outcome of this session or your life. We are building a foundation of radical presence that will support us through the storms ahead. Stay with this feeling of groundedness. Before we close this opening chapter of our journey together, take 3 final breaths. With the first breath, honor the body that has held you throughout this practice. With the second breath, honor the emotions that have arisen, all of them, the comfortable and the difficult alike. And with the third breath, honor the simple, astonishing fact that you showed up today, that you chose, even for these few minutes, to stop running and to simply be. Slowly begin to deepen your breath. Gently reawaken your awareness to the space around you. And when you are ready, carry this quality of presence with you. As we prepare to explore, together, the deeper nature of our suffering and the possibility of our freedom. In the ancient teachings of the Buddha, there is a profound distinction between pain and suffering. He spoke of the 2 arrows that strike us in the course of a human lifetime. The first arrow is the unavoidable physical or emotional pain that comes with being alive. When we lose a job, when a relationship ends, or when we face illness, we are struck by the first arrow. This arrow causes a sharp, clean pain that is a natural part of the conditioned world. No amount of meditation or spiritual practice can prevent the first arrow from landing. To be human is to be vulnerable to change, to loss, and to the eventual decay of the body. However, it is what happens next that determines the quality of our entire existence. Most of us, upon being struck by the first arrow, immediately shoot ourselves with a second one. The second arrow is our mental and emotional reaction to the initial pain we felt. It is the, why me, and the, this shouldn't be happening, and the, it will always be like this. While the first arrow causes temporary pain, the second arrow creates long-term suffering. The second arrow is a poison that we brew in the laboratory of our own judging minds. We replay the event 1,000 times, thinking of all the ways we could have prevented it. We blame ourselves, we blame others, and we blame the universe for being so cruel. This mental commentary adds a layer of heaviness that far outweighs the original event. If someone says something unkind to us, that is the first arrow. It stings for a moment. But if we spend the next 3 days thinking about how much we hate them, that is the second arrow. We are the ones keeping the pain alive by refusing to let the event simply be what it was. In this meditation, I want you to look back at a recent moment of difficulty in your life. Bring it gently into your awareness, not to relive it, but to examine it with new eyes. Now, try this: reduce the event to its simplest possible form. Strip away every interpretation, every judgment, every emotional charge, and describe it to yourself like a neutral news headline. Just the bare fact of what happened, nothing more. The relationship ended. The opportunity was lost. The words were spoken. That stripped down fact, that is the first arrow. Feel the clean, honest sting of it. Now notice everything else that arose in its wake: every "why me?" Every "I should have known better," every story about what it means for your future or reveals about your worth. Notice how much larger that second layer is compared to the original event itself. That entire architecture of interpretation, that is the second arrow. And it was built entirely by you, in the hours and days that followed. And here is something important to understand: the second arrow does not always fly outward toward others. Often, it turns inward with devastating precision. Why couldn't I have prevented this? Why am I always the one this happens to? I should be stronger by now. I am, at some fundamental level, not enough. These are perhaps the most dangerous arrows of all, because they strike in silence. And we have been firing them at ourselves for so long that we have forgotten we are the ones holding the bow. The harshest verdicts we will ever face are not handed down by the world, they are whispered by our own minds in the quiet moments before sleep. Becoming aware of this self-directed arrow is not an act of self-pity, it is an act of profound honesty and courage. Now, bring your attention into your body. The second arrow does not live only in the mind, it takes up residence in the flesh. Can you feel it right now? Perhaps there is a tightening across the chest, a clenching in the jaw, a knot somewhere deep in the belly. These are not random physical sensations. They are the body's record of every unprocessed resistance, every argument with reality that was never resolved. The tension you carry in your shoulders may hold the weight of a story you have been telling yourself for years. Place your awareness gently on that place of tension now. You do not need to fix it or release it on demand. Simply recognizing it and saying, "This is where my second arrow lives in my body," that recognition alone begins to loosen its grip. Suffering is the friction caused by the mind's resistance to what has already occurred. When we say, "This should not have happened," we are arguing with a past that cannot be changed. This argument is a massive drain on our energy and a primary source of our exhaustion. The Buddha taught that freedom comes from refusing to fire that second arrow at ourselves. It requires a courageous willingness to feel the sting of life without turning it into a tragedy. We learn to sit with the discomfort of loss without needing to find a villain to blame. We learn to witness our own disappointment without concluding that we are failures. This shift in perspective is the difference between being a victim and being an observer. A victim is constantly at the mercy of the arrows, while an observer sees the arrows coming and going. Imagine the relief of knowing that you don't have to suffer just because you are in pain. You can be sad without being miserable, you can be anxious without being terrified. The second arrow is optional, though it feels like a reflex we have practiced for decades. Every time you catch yourself spiraling into, "if only," you have an opportunity to stop. Take a breath and recognize, this is the second arrow. I am choosing to put the bow down. The bow is heavy, and your arms are tired from holding it for so many years. And putting the bow down, truly putting it down, is also an act of forgiveness. Not the kind of forgiveness that says what happened was acceptable, or that the person who hurt you was right, or that your pain was not real. No, this forgiveness is something far simpler and far more radical. It is the decision to stop paying for someone else's actions with the currency of your own peace. Every moment you spend firing the second arrow at another person, you are the one who bleeds. Forgiveness is not a gift you give to those who wronged you. It is the gift you give to the version of yourself who has been standing with the bow drawn, arms trembling, for far too long. You can lower your arms now. The war does not have to continue inside you just because it happened out there. Treat your pain like a crying child that needs to be held, not a criminal that needs to be punished. When we stop fighting the first arrow, the wound begins to heal much faster than we expected. The energy we used for resistance is now available for healing and transformation. Feel the space that opens up when you stop demanding that life be painless. Now, before we move forward, let us take a moment to let this understanding settle, not just as an idea, but as a lived experience in this body, in this breath. Take one deep, slow breath in, and as you exhale, imagine setting the bow down on the ground before you. Feel the relief in your arms, in your chest, in the space behind your eyes. Take a second breath, and as you exhale, acknowledge the first arrow, whatever clean pain you carry, with compassion rather than resistance. This hurt. It was real, and I am allowed to feel it. And take one final breath, and as you exhale, let go of the second arrow, the story, the verdict, the endless replay just for this moment. You can always pick it up again if you choose to. But notice what it feels like to simply leave it on the ground. This spaciousness, this quiet that remains when the fighting stops, this is the beginning of equanimity. Not a life without pain. Not a heart that has become numb to loss. But a steady, open heart that has learned the difference between what life has done to us and what we have done to ourselves in response. Remember this feeling. Return to it whenever the second arrow is drawn. This space is always here, waiting for you, on the other side of the bow you choose to lay down. There is a common misunderstanding that acceptance means being passive or giving up. Many people fear that if they accept their situation, they will never change for the better. They think that acceptance is a form of defeat, a white flag waved in the face of hardship. But in the Buddhist tradition, acceptance is one of the most active and intelligent states of mind. It is not the same as liking a situation or agreeing that a situation is morally right. Acceptance is simply the honest acknowledgement of facts as they exist in this precise moment. If you are standing in the rain, acceptance is saying, "It is raining," rather than, "It shouldn't rain." The person who denies the rain gets wet, and angry the person who accepts the rain gets wet and finds an umbrella. Acceptance is the prerequisite for effective action, not an alternative to it. And here we must make a crucial distinction, because acceptance is so often confused with something it is not. Acceptance is not toxic positivity. It is not the performance of cheerfulness in the middle of genuine pain. It is not the hollow reassurance of, "Everything happens for a reason," spoken too quickly over a wound that has not yet been allowed to bleed. When we paste a smile over an unexamined truth, we are not practicing acceptance, we are practicing a more sophisticated form of avoidance. True acceptance does not say, "Everything is fine." True acceptance says, "Everything is not fine right now, and I am willing to look at that directly, without flinching." This is not pessimism. This is courage. The difference between toxic positivity and genuine acceptance is the difference between a closed fist and an open hand. One grips tightly to how things should feel, while the other holds lightly to how things actually are. You cannot move from point A to point B if you refuse to admit that you are currently at point A. When we stop wasting our energy on denial, we gain the clarity needed to make wise decisions. The Buddha did not sit under the Bodhi tree and ignore the suffering of the world. He saw it more clearly than anyone else, and because he accepted its existence, he could find a way through it. Think of a master martial artist who does not resist the force of an opponent but moves with it. By accepting the direction of the energy, they can redirect it toward a peaceful resolution. This is the dynamic acceptance that we are cultivating in our practice today. It is the ability to say, the situation is difficult, and I am feeling overwhelmed right now. By naming the truth, the overwhelming feeling loses its power to control your actions. And yet, we must also hold space for the truths that cannot be accepted in a single breath. Some realities require not a moment of surrender, but an entire season. The death of someone we loved. The ending of a dream we spent years building. The slow, quiet recognition that certain things will never be the way we hoped they would be. For these deeper losses, acceptance is not a one-time decision, it is a gradual process of grief. Grief is not the opposite of acceptance. Grief is acceptance in motion. It is what happens when we stop arguing with the loss and allow the full weight of it to move through us. Do not be in a hurry to finish your grieving. Do not measure your healing by how quickly you can say, "I'm fine," and mean it. True acceptance of great loss means leaving the door open long enough for the sorrow to pass through completely, at its own pace, in its own time. And in that unhurried space of mourning, something unexpected begins to emerge, not forgetting, but integration. Not the absence of sadness, but a sadness that no longer needs to be hidden. We often hide from our truths because we think they are too big for us to handle. But the truth is never as scary as the monster we imagine in the dark closet of our minds. When we turn on the light of awareness, we see that the monster is just a pile of old clothes. Acceptance is the act of turning on that light, over and over again, every single day. It is a commitment to reality over fantasy, even when reality is uncomfortable. In your daily life, this looks like facing your bank account, your health, or your relationships with open eyes. It means stopping the spiritual bypassing, where we pretend everything is fine when it isn't. True spirituality is being wholly here for the messy, imperfect parts of our humanity. Now, some of you may carry a question that has been quietly forming as you listen, a necessary and intelligent question: if I accept the world as it is, does that mean I accept injustice? Does it mean I stop fighting for what is right? This is perhaps the most important boundary we can draw around the practice of acceptance. Acceptance is an inner practice. It is not an instruction to make peace with the suffering of others or to remain silent in the face of what is wrong in the world. Consider that Martin Luther King Jr. did not deny or minimize the reality of racial oppression. He accepted it with unflinching, devastating clarity. And it was precisely because he saw reality so fully and so honestly that he could speak about it with such unmistakable power. The deeper your inner acceptance grows, the clearer your outer vision becomes. A mind at war with itself cannot see the world clearly enough to change it. But a mind that is settled, honest, and grounded, that mind becomes a force for transformation that no amount of anger or denial could ever match. As you breathe, feel the strength that comes from being grounded in what is real. There is a profound dignity in a person who does not need to lie to themselves. This honesty creates a sense of internal integrity that no one can take away from you. You become like a mountain that does not move when the clouds gather or the sun shines. The mountain is not tolerating the weather, it is simply being the mountain. The weather happens to the mountain, but the mountain remains unchanged in its essence. You are learning to be that mountain, a stable presence in a world of constant flux. acceptance is the tool that carves away the unnecessary drama from our lives. It leaves us with the raw material of experience, which we can then shape with wisdom. If you are angry, accept the anger. Don't try to be a peaceful person who doesn't feel. If you are greedy, accept the greed. Don't hide it behind a mask of generosity. When you accept these parts of yourself, they no longer have to scream for your attention. They become manageable, and eventually, they transform into something more useful. And here lies the great paradox that the psychologist Carl Jung understood so well: the things we resist persist. The anger we refuse to acknowledge calcifies into bitterness. The grief we refuse to feel hardens into numbness. But the moment we turn toward these experiences with full, honest acceptance, something remarkable begins to happen. They start to move. They start to change, not because we forced them to, but because acceptance removes the pressure that was holding them in place. Change does not come from the far side of resistance. It comes as the natural fruit of a heart that has finally stopped fighting itself. The path of freedom is paved with these small, honest moments of, yes, this is how it is. Let us practice that, yes, right now, not as a word, but as a full-bodied experience. Take a slow breath in, and as you do, bring to mind one truth about your life that you have been holding at a distance. It does not need to be the biggest or most painful truth. Just one thing that you have been reluctant to fully acknowledge. As you exhale, say, yes, to it inwardly, not in defeat, not in resignation, but in clear-eyed recognition. Yes, this is real. Yes, this is true. Yes, I can hold this. Breathe in again, and this time let the yes travel into your body, into the chest, into the belly, into the hands. Exhale, and feel the subtle loosening that comes when we stop spending energy on denial. One more breath. And as you release it, notice the quality of the space that has opened up around that truth. That space, quiet, honest, and undefended, is the ground of your freedom. You are no longer a fugitive running from the truth. You are a witness to the truth. And a witness, unlike a fugitive, is free to move. To deepen our understanding of acceptance, we must look at the nature of the mind itself. Imagine that your consciousness is a vast, infinite blue sky that stretches in all directions. This sky is naturally clear, luminous, and undisturbed by anything that passes through it. Now, imagine that your thoughts, emotions, and memories are clouds in that sky. Some clouds are white and fluffy, representing moments of joy and peace. Other clouds are dark, heavy, and filled with the thunder of anger or the rain of sadness. There are even storms that seem to block out the light entirely, making the world feel cold and unreachable. In our ordinary state of mind, we make the mistake of identifying with the clouds. We say, I am sad, or, I am angry, as if the cloud and the sky were the same thing. But how did this confusion begin? It did not happen overnight. From the earliest days of our lives, we received subtle and not so subtle messages about our emotions. That certain feelings were too much, too inconvenient, too frightening for those around us. And so, rather than learning to observe our emotions as passing weather, we began to absorb them into our identity. We became the storm because no one showed us how to be the sky. We learned to say, I am angry, because anger is moving through me, was a language no one taught us. Understanding this is not an invitation to blame our past, it is an invitation to profound compassion for ourselves. We were never broken, we simply forgot what we were. Because the sky is not the clouds, and the clouds can never stain or scratch the sky. No matter how violent the storm, the sky remains perfectly intact behind the turbulence. The sky does not try to push the clouds away, nor does it try to hold onto the beautiful ones. It simply provides the space for all weather to arise, exist, and eventually dissolve. Now, let us move from understanding into direct experience. Close your eyes and take a slow, deep breath. As you exhale, imagine the top of your skull gently opening, like a skylight, revealing an infinite expanse of open blue above you. This is not something you are creating, you are simply remembering it. Now, turn your attention to whatever is present in your mind right now. Perhaps there is a thought about something you need to do later. Perhaps there is a low hum of anxiety, or a flicker of restlessness, or the ghost of an old memory. Whatever is there, give it a shape. Give it a color. Is it a small, wispy cloud drifting lazily? A dense gray mass moving slowly across your inner sky? A distant rumble of thunder at the edges of your awareness? Simply observe it, the way the sky observes all weather with complete, unhurried attention. Notice how the cloud exists within the sky, but is not the sky. Notice that the awareness you are using to observe the cloud is itself spacious, still, and untouched. That awareness that is you. That is the sky. When a painful emotion arises, try to observe it from the perspective of the sky. Say to yourself, a cloud of anxiety is passing through, rather than, I am anxious. This small change in language creates a space of freedom where you are no longer a victim. You are the vastness that contains the anxiety, which means you are much larger than the feeling. The clouds cannot hurt the sky, and your emotions cannot hurt the essence of who you are. And yet some clouds do not pass quickly. Some return with the same weight, the same color, the same particular quality of darkness, season after season. Perhaps you know this cloud well. Perhaps you have spent years wishing it would simply leave, bargaining with it, exhausting yourself trying to blow it away with the force of your will. Today, instead of demanding that it move, try something different. Turn toward it with curiosity rather than resistance. Speak to it, not with the voice of someone who wants it gone, but with the voice of someone who is finally ready to listen. You might say, inwardly and gently, you have come back again. I see you. I am not going to fight you today. Tell me what you carry. Some of our most persistent emotional clouds are not enemies. They are undelivered messages from parts of ourselves that have never felt safe enough to be heard. When we stop treating them as intruders and begin receiving them as difficult but necessary visitors, something in them begins to soften. Not immediately, not completely, but enough to breathe. This realization is the key to equanimity, the even-mindedness that remains steady in all weather. A person with equanimity feels the rain, but they do not become the rain. They appreciate the sunshine, but they do not fall into despair when the sun sets. They have found a ground of being that is deeper than the shifting tides of circumstance. As you sit in silence, try to feel this sky-like nature of your own awareness. Is there a part of you that is simply noticing the sounds, the breath, and the thoughts? That noticing part of you is the sky, calm, observant, and fundamentally at peace. It does not judge the thoughts as good or bad, it just acknowledges their presence. This is the Satipatthana, the four foundations of mindfulness, in its simplest form. It is the direct path to liberation because it cuts through the illusion of a solid self. If you are the sky, then there is no me that is being attacked by my thoughts. There is only a flow of phenomena through a field of infinite, loving awareness. Even the most difficult memory is just a cloud that has lingered a bit longer than others. Give that memory permission to be there, knowing that it too will eventually evaporate. The sky has room for everything, it does not need to be cleaned or fixed. And here is perhaps the most liberating truth in all of this: you do not need to become the sky. You already are the sky. The moment you try to achieve sky-like awareness as though it were a prize at the end of a long road, you have already slipped back into being a cloud called the seeker. The sky is not the destination of your practice. It is the ground from which your practice arises. This meditation is not constructing something new inside you. It is clearing away just enough of the noise for you to remember what was always there. Before the stories, before the self-judgments, before the long years of forgetting. Every time you return to this perspective, even for a single breath, you are not making progress toward the sky. You are simply recognizing that you never left it. Now, as we prepare to carry this awareness beyond the quiet of this practice, let us consider what it means to be the sky when the eyes are open and the world is loud. The next time someone says something that stings, notice the cloud that forms quickly, automatically, the way clouds always do. The next time you are sitting in traffic and frustration rises, or you receive news that unsettles your plans, or you look in the mirror and the inner critic begins its familiar commentary in that very moment, create a single breath of space. Just one breath. And in that breath, remember, a cloud is passing through. I am the sky. You do not need a meditation cushion to be the sky. You do not need silence or solitude or perfect conditions. The sky is available to you in the middle of the meeting, in the middle of the argument, in the middle of the night when sleep will not come. It asks only for a moment of remembering. And remembering, it turns out, is something you are already deeply capable of. Because what you are remembering has never, not even for a single moment, been lost. Let the weather of your life happen, and stay rooted in the vastness of your being. The storms will come, the beautiful days will come, and through all of it, you remain open, spacious, and undiminished. That is the sky, that is you. As we come to the final stage of this meditation, we look toward the goal of the path. Freedom in Buddhism is not an escape from the world, but a deep immersion into it. It is the ability to live in the center of the noise and the chaos without being shattered. The Buddha called this nirvana, which literally means the blowing out of the fires. The fires he referred to are greed, hatred, and delusion, the forces that keep us fighting reality. When we stop resisting life, the fires of suffering naturally lose their fuel and die out. We are left with a cool, clear heart that can respond to the world with compassion. Before we step fully into this final teaching, take a moment to look back at the ground you have already covered. You arrived at the beginning of this journey carrying the weight of an invisible contract, a set of demands you had written for life without realizing it. You learned to arrive in the present moment, exactly as it is, without negotiation. You encountered the teaching of the two arrows, and you discovered that much of your suffering was never the wound itself, but the story you told about the wound. You explored the radical idea that acceptance is not weakness but the most intelligent and courageous response to reality. And you remembered not learned, but remembered that beneath every cloud of thought and emotion, you are and have always been the open sky. This is not a small journey. Most people live an entire lifetime without taking a single one of these steps. You have taken all of them. Let that land for a moment, with the full weight of its significance. This freedom is available to us in every breath, every conversation, and every mundane task. It is not something that happens someday after years of sitting in a cave. It happens the moment you choose to stop arguing with the way things are right now. It is the freedom to grieve when you lose someone, without the added weight of, this shouldn't be. It is the freedom to love deeply, knowing that everything we love will eventually change. We often think that if we accept impermanence, we will stop caring about anything. But the opposite is true. When we know that things are fleeting, they become infinitely more precious. A flower is beautiful precisely because it will wilt. If it were made of plastic, we would ignore it. Think of the faces you love most in this world. Think of how those faces have changed over the years, and how they will continue to change. Tonight, when you look at one of those faces, try looking with the knowledge that this precise version of this person, this age, this expression, this particular quality of light in their eyes exists only now, and never again in quite this way. Let that knowledge soften your gaze. Let it slow you down. Impermanence does not steal our love from us. It awakens our love, calling it back from the distraction of habit into the full presence of wonder. The miracle of this life is not that things last. The miracle is that they exist at all. And by accepting their finitude, we stop waiting for the perfect life. To begin and start living the actual life we have, in all its fragile, irreplaceable beauty. The 3 marks of existence: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self are doors to this freedom. When we stop seeking permanent happiness in impermanent things, we are no longer disappointed. And when we come to the 3rd mark, non-self, we must pause, because this is the teaching most easily misunderstood. Non-self does not mean that you do not exist. It does not mean that your experiences are not real, or that your pain does not matter, or that you are merely an illusion to be discarded. Non-self means something far more liberating. It means that the rigid, defended, separate self you have spent so much energy protecting is not as solid as it feels. It is more like a river than a rock, constantly moving, constantly shaped by everything it flows through. And when a river finally reaches the ocean, it does not disappear. It becomes something larger. The boundaries dissolve, and what remains is not less but immeasurably more. When we stop fighting to preserve a fixed identity, we do not lose ourselves. We find that we are connected to everything, to the breath of the person sitting next to us, to the ancient light of distant stars, to the vast, wordless awareness that holds all of it without effort. This is not a philosophical abstraction. This is the felt experience of freedom. We become like the wind, moving through the world without leaving a trace of attachment. This is the path through the center, where we meet life with open hands and steady eyes. We don't need the clouds to disappear to be happy, we just need to know we are the sky. Take a final, deep breath and feel the immense gratitude for this human life. Gratitude for the ability to feel, to learn, and to wake up from the dream of suffering. Even the pain you have carried was a teacher, guiding you toward this moment of release. You have the tools now to face whatever the world brings your way with grace. You are not a victim of circumstance, you are a practitioner of reality. As you prepare to open your eyes, bring this sense of sky-like awareness with you. Let it infuse your movements, your words, and your thoughts throughout the day. The meditation does not end when you stand up, it simply changes its form. Every moment is an opportunity to practice acceptance and to choose freedom. Before you open your eyes, I want to offer you one simple gift to carry into the hours ahead. Choose a single moment in your day, just one, and make it your anchor. Perhaps it is the moment you sit down for your first meal, or the moment you open a door and step through it, or the moment you catch a glimpse of the sky between buildings. Whatever you choose, make that moment a doorway. In that moment, take one conscious breath. Just one. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice what is around you. And for that single breath, remember everything you have touched in this practice. You do not need an hour on a cushion to keep this alive. You need only one breath, chosen with intention, offered to the present moment like a small and sacred gift. Over time, these single breaths accumulate into a life that is fundamentally different, not because the circumstances have changed, but because the one who meets the circumstances has remembered who they truly are. And now, as we arrive at the very last moment of this journey together, let us close not with words about peace, but with the actual practice of extending it. Begin with yourself. Place your awareness gently on your own heart and offer it these words, silently and sincerely. May I be at peace. May I be free from suffering. May I know the joy of this life. Now bring to mind someone you love without reservation, their face, their voice, the particular warmth of their presence. Extend the same wish to them. May you be at peace. May you be free from suffering. May you know the joy of this life. Now think of someone you neither know nor have strong feelings about, a stranger on the street, someone you passed today without a second glance. Offer them the same wish. They too carry invisible wounds. They too are learning to be the sky. And finally, let your awareness expand outward in every direction beyond this room, beyond this city. Beyond every border and ocean and horizon to all beings, known and unknown, near and far, human and otherwise, may all beings be at peace. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings know the joy of this life. Walk back into the world with a soft heart and a clear mind, ready for everything. The war is over, and you have finally come home to yourself. Slowly, gently, when you are ready, open your eyes and return to the room.